Thank you, Mel, and thank you, Chancellor, for the welcome, and thank you, Vice-Chancellor Emeritus Professor Scott Bowman, for that sage advice. Recent research has confirmed that the key to having a fulfilled and happy life is to be grateful, acknowledge the contributions of people around you, and to give. Do things for others, be reliable, promise and commit. I suspect that most people associated with CQUniversity already know this because I see this attitude everywhere I look. But I thought I'd use this occasion to acknowledge people, express my appreciation and begin the conversation about what I can do for others. So I'll start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm standing, the Durrumbal people, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. And thanks to Wade Mann for the welcome to country and to the Durrumbal Wuru dancers. I'm aware that I'm also beaming out to CQUniversity staff, students and supporters around Australia. And I know you join me in acknowledging that we are all standing on the lands of Aboriginal people. We extend our respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders attending today. In many ways, what we're doing today is nothing new. Coming together for ceremonial purposes, imparting knowledge, transitioning leadership, influencing future generations, people have been gathering on these lands for tens of thousands of years to do exactly this. There is so much this university can learn from 50,000 years of successful, continuous culture, leadership and custodianship. I would also like to acknowledge the many dignitaries attending today, physically and virtually. As mentioned by our MC and by our Chancellor, I'm honoured that so many of you have taken the time to be part of this ceremony today, but I'm particularly delighted in seeing such a huge show of support for CQUniversity more generally. Speaking of VIPs, I hope you'll forgive me for specifically acknowledging the ongoing support of my wife and best friend, Sue Maloney, and our two kids, Danielle and Michael. Michael and his partner, Sinead, I understand are attending the CQUniversity campus in Melbourne, and I even understand my mother and perhaps some of my siblings are also attending in the Perth campus, so hi guys. I grew up in Western Australia, Noongar country, specifically in South Perth along the Swan River, which is the traditional lands of the Nyungar river people. That was where I spent most of my youth, along with my brothers and sisters. There were 6 of us. Always exploring and always questioning, I now look back and realise that I was probably always destined to be an environmental scientist. I had the pleasure, but occasionally the embarrassing horror of having my father as a teacher in my high school. So I guess I was always interested in education, and I saw from an early age the ability of great teachers to change lives. I've studied and worked at Curtin University, Murdoch University, Flinders University, the University of Glasgow in Scotland, Charles Sturt University, and most recently the University of Canberra. Along the way, I had the privilege to learn from many great leaders, including Professor David Battersby, AM, who you'll hear from when I finally shut up in a moment. I discovered there are many types of leaders with often very different styles, but the successful leaders, I think, keep it simple. They inspire others by sharing a vision, inviting ideas and feedback, being honest and open about failures as well as successes. In a word, I think it's about being authentic. You can spot it a mile off in a good leader, but you can spot it 2 miles off when it's faked. It was my time, though, at Charles Sturt University that has provided me with an in-depth understanding of the particular importance of education, research and community engagement to regional Australia. I knew that was how I could make the most difference in people's lives, individuals, families and communities. So when the opportunity came to lead CQUniversity, I jumped at the chance. Not just any university, CQUniversity. I had been watching CQUniversity for a long time, and I've watched Professor Scott Bowman lead CQ from a good university to a truly great university. The university has every right to feel proud about its reputation in the sector for its approach to inclusivity, regionality, community engagement, national reach, internationalisation, and for being bold, daring to be different, and frankly, often not conforming to the sector norms. I really love that. CQUniversity is one of Australia's most important universities. With over 25 physical sites spanning the entire mainland continent, CQU is ranked the best university in Australia for rural and remote student participation, the best university in supporting students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and with 6,000 first-in-family students, we're among the top 2 Australian universities. And we're doing all of this whilst achieving domestic undergraduate employment rates of 80%. That's nearly 10% higher than the national average. And achieving the highest rating, 5 stars, for student experience, teaching quality, social equity, starting salary, and as I mentioned, full-time employment. Not surprisingly, given all of this, CQUniversity is ranked around the top 500 university worldwide. There's 15,000 universities in the world, the top 500, and around the top 100 universities that are young, under 50 years of age. But it's what CQUniversity adds to our communities that is perhaps even more important. We value add far more to economies, workforces, communities, and individual graduates than perhaps any university in Australia. If a university in, say, Sydney closed tomorrow, there would be comparatively little impact for students having perhaps to catch an extra bus to go to the next university in Sydney. But imagine CQUniversity closing tomorrow, the impact that it would have on entire regional communities, workforces, health outcomes, the prosperity of some of the nation's largest mining and agricultural industries, and generations of regional Australians robbed of the opportunity because they're robbed of the access to higher education. Frankly, it would be catastrophic. Don't worry, that's not going to happen. But can you see why I claim that CQUniversity is such an important university in Australia? CQUniversity, of course, is also a large and respected international educator with 6,500 international students from over 70 countries. Being an international educator is a hallowed privilege. It is a sacred trust placed upon universities by families overseas to take their sons and daughters and return them transformed for the betterment of themselves and their communities. I think CQUniversity is a powerful story to tell about international education, and I look forward to writing the next chapter with you all. I've spoken a lot about education and community engagement, but underpinning these achievements is new knowledge and thought leadership driven by excellent research. Not only does research inform our teaching, keeping it at the cutting edge with new knowledge, but it supports industry and drives innovation and productivity in our communities. Many other Australian universities would give their right arm to have a slice of the research potential of CQUniversity. I stand here on the doorstep of some of the nation's greatest natural, social and economic wonders: agriculture, mining and processing, the emerging Northern Australia story, the Great Barrier Reef and the continent's second largest river delta system which drains into it, the mighty Fitzroy. And with CQUniversity's truly national footprint, we're in a great position to tackle many of Australia's bigger challenges: population growth, health and ageing in our regional centres, engineering and mining innovation, regional arts and education, climate change and renewables, and the cultural learnings yet to be absorbed from our First Nations people. Yep, CQUniversity is in a great position. It can be proud of its ERA ratings of world standard, above world standard, and well above world standard in 14 different disciplines. It has come a long way in a short time, but I see this as the start of the trajectory, certainly not the midpoint. We're committed to keeping our research relevant to our mission, which is to produce new knowledge that drives prosperity and sustainability of our communities, our industries, our nation and the world. I want to make particular mention of the potential of our vocational education and training space. I'm not surprised to see the delineations between vocational education and training and higher education still persist here as they do across Australia. But I want CQUniversity to be the national example of how these entrenched cultural educational walls can be pulled down. In many ways, we, the educators, have invented this partition and then encouraged our systems to reflect this divide. Here is what I know. Industry doesn't care about the labels and our arbitrary educational distinctions. They just want the best job-ready workforce we can give them. If that's engineering graduates with welding skills, let's give that to them. And students want the best career outcomes irrespective of AQF levels. If that's beauty therapists with business and accounting skills, let's go there. Let's be the university who tears down the institutional relics of the 20th century and rewrites the rules. I can see the planets beginning to align culturally, economically, and even politically to make this educational renaissance a distinct possibility, and I want CQUniversity to be the front of that march. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me acknowledge the many committed people and amazing work in and around CQUniversity, and I hope you're hearing how grateful I am to be chosen to lead such an impressive and important university. But to complete my pursuit of happiness, I better mention what I plan to do for others. You've already heard my oath of office, but I'd like to add a few extra commitments to that list. 1, to Indigenous engagement. CQUniversity's footprint is hosted by more First Nations than any other university in Australia. This is not only a humbling privilege, but also a solemn responsibility. CQUniversity has one of the most powerful reputations in the sector for engagement with Indigenous communities. And the responsibility I feel that about this process of reconciliation, engagement and learning is one that I will not shy from. 2, to regional Australia. Unlike most universities, CQUniversity is entrusted with an important and unique social licence by the regional communities it serves. As Vice-Chancellor, I acknowledge that I am the custodian of this licence, and I recognise the important role CQUniversity plays, not just as educators of our regional students, but as social engineers, major employers, drivers and transformers of local economies and industries, and enablers for entire demographics who would otherwise be excluded from education. CQUniversity will continue to service this social responsibility with every resource at our disposal. And finally, my commitment to CQUniversity culture. I guess I'm chatting to staff here. There is much for which the CQUniversity community ought to be proud, but we should be most proud of our culture. It is something for which the university is renowned, and many people won't know, top ranked. The culture of living and breathing our values, engagement, a can-do approach, openness, leadership, inclusivity. The culture of generosity and giving back to communities that CQUniversity serves. And the culture of daring to be different, being bold and innovative. This culture is in our DNA, so will be replicated and curated well into the future. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience whilst I list all the many things that excite me about this role and express my appreciation for all the things that have got me and CQUniversity to this day. I'd like to conclude by a few brief messages to our distributed audience. My message to the community, government and industry is that CQUniversity is open for business. Our commitment to engagement is not changing. Our commitment to the continuous improvement of VET, higher education and growing our research impact will not change. Work with us in the future for future-proofing your industries and workforces, and we'll deliver to you the scaffolders, the sonographers, the designers and the scientists to make this happen. My message to staff is please keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to meeting you all and hearing your best ideas. We're at a pivotal point in CQUniversity's trajectory. What we've now got is a great university overflowing with potential. What we do with this great university and where we take it is the next mountain to climb, but I can't climb that mountain alone. I'll need your advice, your support, your experience and your commitment. I'm here to lead, but also to learn. The process starts today, day one of the first 100 days on the road, getting to know CQUniversity and everyone in it, and I really look forward to it. My message to students, you have made the right choice. I commend you on taking the bold leap into education. It's often very scary for individuals. And I thank you for trusting CQUniversity to guide you on this journey. When you graduate, the impact of your choices today will be felt by you and your family for generations to come. Such is the power of education. You have come to a university with the highest levels of student support in the sector, so yell out if you need a hand along the way. You have come to a university that is now recognised as being amongst the top 2% of universities in the world. And I commit myself and our staff to working tirelessly to improve this university even more. So your pride in CQUniversity will continue to grow. And finally, and perhaps most importantly of all, I'd like to thank Professor Scott Bowman. Scott, what you've achieved as a leader of CQUniversity over the past decade has been remarkable. Your staff are so proud of you, and they're proud of everything they have achieved under your leadership. You're recognised as a giant in the Australian higher education sector, Scott. I'd like to personally thank you for welcoming and supporting me and Sue in preparing for this role over the last few months. You have left a foundation and a legacy upon which I'm really excited to build. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever I can achieve as Vice-Chancellor of CQUniversity will be by standing on the shoulders of this giant. Thank you very much.